Hi, my name is Marco. I'm a former pro opera singer turned voice actor, and today we're going to be listening to Soul of Cinder from Dark Souls 3. Soul of Cinder and Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, are intertwined, correct? Is the Soul of Cinder Gwyn? I don't know. I'm sorry. I really love Dark Souls 3. I played it several times in terms of new game pluses, but I don't know the lore, I guess. I'm really excited to listen to this and to hear what it sounds like compared to Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. Let's go. In this opening, we have this incredibly violent slamming, and it hits you in the face, and it's like thunderclaps, right? You have this real sense of hostility and this sort of destruction, and then you've got this dum ba-da-da-dum ba-da-da-dum ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum ba-da-da-dum ba-da-da-dum. You know, I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher in this moment in terms of ending Dark Souls 3, but then also just what the significance of the Soul of Cinder is and means in the context of the game, and then also for our role in what we're doing in Dark Souls. As far as I know, this is the first time that we've heard a male soloist being used as an accent vocalism in this. In these, usually it's Yuka Kitamura herself, and usually it's a soprano. The sound is torrential. It's violent. It's extremely powerful. I'm venture to guess that using the male soloist actually signifies Gwyn, if they are in fact connected. I can't recall the lore. In my mind, that male singer is Gwyn himself, and that is that sound. And I can't get this idea out of my head of intertwining these two pieces together to hear if there's some sort, even though I've already done Gwyn, Lord of Cinder on the channel, if there is a connection here between the Soul of Cinder and the Lord of Cinder. In fact, I can't hear any comparisons. Like, there's no melody here that's similar, which is interesting because I'm expecting there to be one. Let me go back to Soul of Cinder. Oh, that's so cool! That's so many years later. It's so sneaky. Do you hear the sort of quiet rage with the string instruments there? It's like years have gone by, and the soul of Cinder is essentially just ash, right? There's an anger in this, and a deep dissatisfied frustration and quiet rage, vengefulness. I keep thinking about how satisfying this must have been as a player of Dark Souls who absolutely loves this series with every fiber of their being, and to go through and play the first one, get to Gwyn, have that experience, and then fast forward through 2 games to the very end of Dark Souls 3. Obviously, I understand that the Ring City is the end of Dark Souls, but to then arrive at the final boss and have to be the Lord of Cinder again, but the soul of Cinder, I assume the soul of Gwyn. This must have been such an incredible moment. I think in terms of classical music, we have this happening, of course. I imagine it's like when you go to sing the Ring Cycle and obviously it's probably over the course of 4 days because each opera is about 3 hours. Sometimes they do it all in one day, especially at Bayreuth, I'm pretty certain, which is where Wagner's Opera House was in Bayreuth. You hear Das Rheingold on a Monday, and then you don't get to go to Dämmerung until Thursday. Let's say. Hearing the themes that you may have heard in Das Rheingold must be very exciting as a person who is a fan of Wagnerian music and a fan of the Ring Cycle. Whereas this was over the course of many, many years where you hear Gwyn and then all of a sudden to then have the final song of Dark Souls 3, or so you perceive prior to knowing about the DLC, it must be such a shock emotionally to really hear that leitmotif again. And in this case, in such a modified and hauntingly painful version of it. I mean, it's like soul crushing to even listen to, but to hear it again, I mean, it must be astounding for a fan. Something I hear in the music, and I really was incredibly impressed and intrigued by this, and so I wanted to look up the lore. And one of the things that I find fascinating about this is that being that the Soul of Cinder is an amalgamation of all the Lords of Cinder and anyone who has linked to the First Flame, it's almost like you hear the desperation of the Soul of Cinder to protect the resting place of the First Flame from the Ashen One, which is the playable character. And so you hear a lot of that suffering in there. And that sort of desire and necessity to protect. There's a sense of desperation to protect that flame and to protect, what this entity knows to be a sacred place, and to not have it be abused by the Ashen One or abused by the playable character, and that they are doing everything in their power to protect what they know to be sacred and holy. It's really, really interesting, and I think the Soul of Cinder is such an interesting character in that it uses some of the amalgamations of the different bosses as sort of like this great protector, and it uses those attacks that we as playable characters have come to know from other Lords of Cinder and stuff. So the lore in all of this makes it so much more sweet to taste. There is a depth and profundity that you wouldn't necessarily hear if you were just listening. Now, understandably, the origination of this channel was to focus on how video game music is classical music and can be taken out of context. 100 plus videos later, I still stand by that fact. When we listen to this music within the context, and video game music serves that programmatic telling of a story context, it is a very deeper experience to understand and to know the lore and to lean on the reasons why the song was composed. The fact that this so much connects to Gwyn is incredible. And you're a fan of this game and a fan of this music and a fan of this lore, this must have been such a moment for you. And I can only imagine it. I'm just so impressed, and I do believe that even though this isn't a video game, it absolutely could be taken out of context. This is astounding musical literature. It deserves a place in a symphony hall. I want to hear it. I want to hear it played by an orchestra at a major city. Anyway, I'm mostly ranting now because the feeling I feel is like this weird nostalgia and this weird sense of sadness that's really hard to explain. Look, if you want to support the channel, feel free to check out the links in the About section. Sorry, I'm really kind of moved knowing, understanding the lore of the Soul of Cinder now. Even though I've beat the game multiple times, I didn't fully understand what the Soul of Cinder truly was. Because I always viewed Dark Souls games as games that I would never fully understand or whatever. But now I'm have this desire to play it again and really pay attention. If you want to check out the Discord, feel free. And as always, thanks a ton. This has been amazing. There's a lot more Dark Souls music to listen to, so we'll get there. Talk to you later. Bye.